Hi, I'm Brandon Bowers, pastor of New Life Church in Locust, and I have Jaron Kaiser with me, who's one of our church members, one of our board members, and also a financial advisor. In January, we wrapped up a series that we called It's All His. And we've been talking about the sovereignty of God and how all things in life belong to God, and that we should surrender all areas of our life over to Him and make that one of our goals for this year. And one area that we found that people tend to struggle with in surrendering control and relinquishing access to God is in the area of finances. Jaron walked us through some of the problems that we've run into as far as an American culture when it comes to money, and he also suggested some of the solutions that we should be looking to implement. If you want to check out that video, you can go to our website, newlife247.com. If you have further questions about finance and financial questions or need some financial coaching, we'd be more than glad to help you with that. So you can just send us an email to info@newlife247.com. But we thought it would be great if we would add some supplemental videos to answer some of the misconceptions, some of the questions that people have in some common areas, some major areas of finance. Insurance, saving and investing, and budgeting. And that's what we want to talk about today, is the area of budgeting. So I just want to jump right in and give Jaron the opportunity to answer some of the common questions. So first question, Jaron, is what is a budget? And why do I need one? Do I really have to have one?
Great question. And so if we're going to start with financial management, let's start with the basics. So you look at Haggai, and God's talking about the silver and the gold are His. And if we're going to manage His finances in our capacity as stewards, then we're going to need a plan. So in its barest form, a budget is a spending plan. Now, most of the people, when they start thinking about the starting steps for financial management, they only think about a budget. So let me just step up real quick from here. There are really two basic aspects to financial management. One is cash flow, and that is money coming in every month, every pay period, and money going out. And that's what the budget addresses. The second aspect is net worth. And that's our ability to build wealth over time. It's really a measure of the assets that we have, which are a good thing, and the liabilities that we have, most of the times that we've used to acquire those assets. So net worth, what it allows us to do is really meet those long-term goals. Cash flow, budgeting, that's what we use to meet short-term objectives.
Well, when I've talked with people before, the word budget seems to scare people. It's
Right.
somewhat intimidating. So if I've never made a budget or had a budget before, how do I go about making one? And is it really something that I need to write down, or could I just simply keep track of it in my head?
No, I would definitely encourage you to write it down. Even if you're just starting out in financial management, it's only going to get more complex. But writing it down has something that's set there. It builds discipline into the process, so definitely do that. As far as how you go about making it, again, since we talked about everything being God's, and that really God owns it all is the first rule of stewardship, spend time with God. When we're stewarding, we're not only doing it with our treasure, we're doing it with our time and our talents as well. So I would encourage you to really spend some time with God and try to determine what His will and His purpose for your life are. And then you can look at some practical steps that you take to have that play out in your life. That's going to allow you to set goals, and goals are really what you build your budget back from. So spend that time. You need to understand where you're starting from. That time with God's going to tell you where you're going, but you're not going to know how to get there unless you know where you're starting from. So what I would do, I would encourage you to track what you're spending. Your income you should know pretty well, but really it may take a couple of months, but try to get a handle on where you're spending your money and start to know what that looks like.
Right, like I said, most people know exactly what's coming in the door.
Right.
The problem is they lose track of it when it leaves.
Right.
And inevitably it will leave some way or another, right? So when it comes to expenses in the budget, are there just some major categories of expenses that I should try to track or write down? Or, should I just simply sort of hit the highlights, or just be very detailed what's the best way to go about that?
So when you get into the actual budgeting process, first rule of thumb, know yourself. If you're a person that you can keep up with every penny and want to do that, then by all means do it. You don't have to do that to have a successful budget, and if it's just going to bog you down, then kind of stick to the high level. Do it in tens or hundreds of dollars. But as far as categories that you're looking at, one category, and this is probably budgeting 201, not 101, is taxes. And we'll talk more about that in some of the other videos. But taxes is one of the main categories that your income goes toward. You don't have a lot of control over it, but there are some things you can do to minimize it. The other one, and since we're looking at stewardship, I would encourage you to put giving right there as far as your top category. You spent time with God, you kind of know what He's calling you to do. Prioritize giving. The Bible calls us to give our first and best back to God. So as far as budget categories, that should be our top budget category. The next one in there, once you've given to God, give to yourself. This goes back to the net worth. Have savings as your second category so that you can begin building net worth to meet some of the long-term objectives that we all have. So you've got giving, you've got savings. We've covered taxes in brief form. The other one, and the main category, I think when you start moving the pieces around in a budget, is your living expenses. This, you're talking about your home, your auto, your entertainment, vacations, gifts, all those things. You've got pets, you've got kids. Those are going to all add up in the living expenses category. This is where you really begin to understand your needs and your wants. And most people have a lot more month than they've got income, and so you're going to run out pretty fast. But living expenses, once you've spent that time and understand your goals, it's where you can pull back some of the fluff and really get serious about, okay, I'm going to pursue God's will for my life. Here's what I need to cut out to do it, or here's what I need to spend more to do it. And then the final category, and hopefully this isn't a big category for people, but in our lifestyles and our consumerism driven economy, debt repayment is a big category that people have to contend with. So that's another one, and that's going to be pretty much dictated by the amount of debt that you've accrued. So those are the 5 basic categories you're looking at.
Right. When you talk about debt, I know one of the major areas that debt can begin to pile up in, looking across American culture and society, is in the area of credit cards. I think right now, on average, the average American family has accrued like $20,000 in debt on credit cards, which sort of blows me away. I couldn't even imagine having to live under that. But is, from a biblical standpoint and a financially wise standpoint, is credit and credit cards, should that be avoided at all costs, or is it okay to use those things?
I think as a tool, you're probably okay using them, but I think that I would throw that out there with some strong cautions. The Bible, first and foremost, warns against debt, so it's definitely not a good thing that you want to put yourself in a position of. But in our modern world, a lot of things are done electronically. Now, I mean, you've got the credit card doesn't even leave home with you. You've got your phone to pay for things. So I think as a convenience tool, do it. But again, know yourself. If you're going to lose discipline by using a credit card or electronic payment, then I would stick to cash. The most important thing is you need to stick to the budget that you've written down. And if credit cards are going to keep you from doing that, then I would not use them. But if you're going to use them, not spend more, pay it off each month, then they're probably okay as a convenience option.
Right. That's about all the time we have for this particular topic. If you'd like to know more, or you have other questions about budgeting, please feel free to contact us here at New Life. You can send us a message to info@newlife247.com. And I would encourage you to check out the other 2 videos on saving and investing, and also on insurance. So, Jaron, thank you again for your insight, and I appreciate your time today.
Sure.